folks.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Okay, Matt, you just identify yourself quick too, yeah. And just identify yourself too so the folks that you looking know who you are.
The second one.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board, and I appreciate the opportunity to come in tonight and talk about recycling trash and ways that the community can perhaps continue to improve the program. As you're aware, as your recycling coordinator on board, I'm on board to pretty much help the community find ways to increase recycling, knock down how much trash we generate, and basically save money for the town so that any money that's currently going to the waste to energy facility where our trash gets burned, instead of paying that vendor, can be stay in the community and be providing other services. So a lot of what what really dictates what we do in terms of the materials that we have to handle in the trash and recycling stream is dictated by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They've put in the waste bans that really help guide how we have to manage our trash and recyclables. In the past, we've undertaken several initiatives to try to reach our goals of increased recycling, knock down trash, and save money, and the community has really responded very well in the past. Some of those initiatives have included trying to have cardboard only be collected as recyclable. We really had a great enforced cardboard recycling program initiated years ago that's ended up saving the town tens of thousands of dollars. We've had, by working with the solid waste vendor that collects the material, we've really tried to knock out picking up material that, again, the state says cannot be put in with the trash, and that has also helped us save money. In the last couple of years, we've really encouraged residents to use their own containers for putting out the recyclables at the curb, because those typical old standard recycling bins are pretty small, and because people are now recycling so much and so many things can get recycled, that's somewhat been somewhat limiting. So in the last couple of years, we've been really encouraging people to use their own containers. You'll see that as you drive around town. A lot of people are using their old trash barrels to put out the recyclables. We've have no-cost stickers that we've been providing to residents whenever they are interested in using their own containers, and that's pretty much used to you place it on the barrel, and that really allows the collection vendors, both the trash and recycling, know what's in there. So that and that's greatly actually helped increase the recycling in the last couple of years. So what to do next? Because again, we're still, compared to many other communities, we could have improvements in the program and find additional ways to save money. So in the background material, I believe, in your packets for tonight's meeting was a report that pretty much encompassed two different components. One was a review of what other communities in the area have been doing regarding their trash programs as a way to, in terms of techniques that they've been using to try to, again, knock down trash, increase recycling, and save significant monies in their communities. And then the second part was a overview of a proposed program that would work, I believe, here in the town of Dracut quite well, and would help the town realize very significant savings. In the first part, again, just to do a quick overview, the communities that we did a summary of the way their materials are handled were the towns of Andover, Billerica, Chelmsford, Lowell, Methuen, Tewksbury, and Tingsboro. And in general, the types of most of those communities have implemented trash reduction programs so that they encourage residents to realize that a lot of the things that they had been putting in the trash are actually recyclable and can get in there, get collected as recycling. Many of those communities have seen savings in the tens of thousands and up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, mainly in avoided trash disposal costs, because that's the big ticket that we're trying to save on, is the avoided trash disposal costs. In the second part of the report, sort of outlined some of the, I outlined pretty much how saving money in Dracut could be accomplished by implementing an automated trash collection program. This basically would be having each household have the same type of trash barrel, a wheeled trash barrel, that would be put out at the curb on their trash collection day. This has been done in many communities across the state in the last 10, 15 years. And in particular in the Merrimack Valley area and many of our neighboring communities, they've been implementing these type of programs in the last 3 or 4 years. The response by residents and the officials have been very, very positive. And that's partly why we looked and we've done some research to see if this would make sense here in the town of Dracut, and that's why we're before you this evening. In the report, I mentioned the sort of the outline of what would be proposed as the program. Each residence would receive one 64-gallon big wheeled trash barrel, and that's pretty much the equivalent. If you drive around town, a typical trash barrel is roughly 32-gallon size. So the proposed wheeled toter would be 2 of those. It would be the same as having 2 of those type of barrels that you currently see out at the curb. The benefits are many. Everybody's going to have the same container. The town looks, and communities, this has been a big part of why communities like this, the appearance in the town is so much better when you go to an automated trash collection program, because everything's contained in that very sturdy barrel. You don't get the spillage. You don't have wind blowing bagfuls of trash around on windy days. Marsh Hill Road and other fun places where you got the high winds up there. You don't have the crows pecking at the bags, the animals getting into them. You don't have even people who use barrels, sometimes the lids blow off or there's no lid on there, and again, trash can blow around. So the community can benefit greatly that way. So in the next part of the report sort of summarizes the recycling program that would take place. We currently have what's called a dual stream program, where we have recyclables collected in 2 fashions: the paper, all the paper materials in one sort, and then all of the bottles and cans, glass, metal, and plastic in the other. We'd probably continue with that same model, but we will explore going to what's also called a single stream recycling program, because that's also been used in some communities as a way to increase recycling. That would basically be, instead of having the 2 sorts, you'd mix all your paper and your bottles and cans and together in the same container. But that's something that can be explored as well, to see if it would make fiscal sense for the community. And again, as I mentioned, one of the nice things about going automated with the trash side is that the barrels that people are currently using for their trash, they can now, because they're going to be received at no cost from the town through this program, a big sturdy trash barrel, they can use their old trash barrels and convert them to the recycling containers. And again, that's another way to increase recycling at no cost for the homeowner and the taxpayer. The next part of next section of the report refers to a key part here, of course, the budget impact. And again, having met with many other communities that have similar programs, we've been very lucky. We're one of the communities in regional collaborative, the Merrimack Valley Regional Recycling Partnership, and it's just been a great avenue to collaborate, pick each other's brains of what programs have worked. Some of those other communities years ago took our experiences with the enforced cardboard recycling program, and now it's sort of fun years later to be trying to pick their brains about their programs having gone automated. So it's been great to see that that's really worked well, and the towns that have gone automated realize significant savings. It's estimated here in the town of Dracut, probably $100,000 roughly a year annually would be saved by going automated with the trash collection program. The next section of the report talks about some of the additional benefits. I mentioned the sturdiness of the barrel and the equitableness of the program, where everybody's got the same trash collection thing. And again, you also see with the automated trash collection program, instead of the trash truck coming up at the curb and you have a driver in the truck and 1 or 2 what are called pickers or shakers on the back of the truck who get off and pick up the barrel and then dump it in the back of the truck, as currently has been happening. What will happen in the automated program is a truck will pull up and mechanical arm will reach out from the side of the truck, clamp onto the barrel, tip it up and in, put it back down on the curb, move on to the next stop. Clean as a whistle, and just efficient, fast, and actually the trash trucks will probably be out of the town faster than they currently are as well, another additional benefit. And then the last part of the report, of course, is a key part towards implementing any type of a new or adjusted program, and that's regarding public outreach. We'd take a similar approach as we have when we've initiated other programs in the community, by having as wide range a outreach as possible, and I list some of the techniques that would be used. Public meetings, of course, that would be a great way to help educate the public about the upcoming program if it's moved in this direction. And it's great to get the questions and answers out. Again, the town of Dracut's very fortunate that we're not going to be trendsetters, and we'd have to be the guinea pigs to see if this type of program works. I've already been doing a lot of research to see what has worked, what hasn't worked in other communities, and the public meetings are a great opportunity to get as many questions from the residents who would be participating in the program in advance of the program. So if there are any questions that are outstanding, we can get them addressed and dealt with right up front. The website would be a great way to get the word out to cable access television, the local media. Having some public information displays around would be great. And of course, we'd do a significant town-wide mailing well in advance of the program. That would also help the residents know the timeline for both the start of the program, but also when those wheeled carts would be delivered to their home, and again, at no charge, and it would be a good, clean operation. So, and then after if the program's implemented, you know, would want to make sure we get, in terms of public outreach, continuous feedback to the community about how the program is working, so that folks would know if it's working and if any changes would be needed to make it even work more efficiently. And then at the very tail end of the report, there were just a couple pictures of the examples of what takes place when a community like Dracut has unlimited trash that people can put out. You can, I think you see that when you go around town. You can sometimes see a lot of trash out there and no recycling. And in many ways, the people who are recycling are sort of paying for all that extra trash that are at those houses where there is a lot of trash, just by the nature of the fact that we pay for each bit of material that we get rid of as trash at the incinerator, but we don't pay for the recycling as much, depending on how much recycling gets out. And then the last page of the report is just a summary of those other area communities. So apologies for taking so long in the introduction, because I had meant to be briefer, but I happen to really enjoy recycling and had the opportunity to speak with you, especially about an exciting program that I think would be really to the benefit of the town in many ways. And happy to answer, or try to attempt to answer any questions you may have.
How can you tell he's also a former selectman?
Good job, man. Just this
That's why you
last
can talk trash.
Oh, boy.
That's good.
Oh, boy.
Joe DeRocco.
I would like to say, especially having heard the tax classification hearing just before this, it brought back some memories. I'd also like to say I greatly appreciated my tenure in my as a Board of Selectmen in my town. I'm not sure I'll ever be recycled as a member of the Board of Selectmen, but that could happen too, who knows?
Never know, right? This last table, Matt, you provided us with a graph here at the end. Is this it?
The graph is my addition.
Okay.
And that is just a graphic presentation of our trash costs, trash tonnages, where we use fiscal years 06 and 07 together as a base, and then just track it from there. And you can see the lines, generally speaking, our tonnages have decreased since 06 and 07. That's attributable to obviously some increased emphasis in recycling in the cardboard, and the additional diligence of making sure that, as the state requires, no yard waste and no building materials are in the trash. So, but can we do better? Yes, I think we can do better. I mean, we're still averaging nearly 1,000 ton a month, just under, of trash. At $71 a ton this year and $73 next year to dispose of.
All right,
I have a
questions?
couple of questions, Madam Chair. Matt, what happens with, like in the pictures, with, you know, there's some items that probably are not going to get into that are larger, that are not going to fit into it.
Yep.
What do you do with those?
Yeah, we call, in general, those are called the bulky items, and that's in our contract, and pretty much every community has this. It's defined as a household trash item that can't fit in a barrel. So, and again, that's currently happening right now, right? But people are allowed to put out one, the current program has been and continues right now, residents are allowed to put out one bulky item per week at no charge. So, two things. With the larger toter, okay, because again, the current toter, most people are using these little 32-gallon barrels. This toter is going to be bigger, so you're going to see some of those bulky items that are not getting, that are currently being put out as bulky are going to actually, some will go into the toter. Okay, so that's a little bit. But in general, what's going to happen what's being proposed at this point is that we'd make that, the bulky item collection similar to the way other larger objects that are part of the waistband, the white goods and the CRTs are collected. And that's where the resident would call up the collection company and schedule a collection for that bulky item. And then there would be a small fee for the bulky item, again, to help cover the disposal cost for the town and the collection cost, and then that would be collected.
That'll be an added cost, which they're not taking in right now.
Correct.
Like if they would throw out a bed frame, just for instance, is not gonna fit inside that 60-foot, so they're gonna have to pay to take that away?
Yes.
Huh?
That's the proposal at this point. And what the other towns that have gone automated usually do is they'll work with the collection vendor, and they provide a price list of what those items are. And I think you'll see in the summary of what other towns have done, the costs are usually between 8 and a lot of it's depending on the weight, because again, that's what the cost to Dracut is by the weight of that stuff going to the incinerator.
Oh.
So, and another nice thing that happens with the bulky items, and this is a key part that's taking place, is there's so many more places that are taking in old chairs, old bed frames, and they're being reused. So that's another benefit of being part of that Merrimack Valley Regional Recycling Partnership is that we're increasing the networks of outlets where people can donate their things instead of tossing it out on the curb and having it incinerated and bye-bye.
With things like, I'm sorry, just as a quick aside, if we did this public outreach piece with things like the resale store for Habitat and Big Brother, would they be able to come and be part of that, just to let people know what they're able to take?
I'd certainly maximize the opportunity, yeah, would, absolutely.
So, if I get this correctly, anything that will not fit in that barrel with the cover down cannot be put out that day?
Yep. That day, if it was the collection day for that item, because again, currently with the white goods, the TVs, the white goods such as refrigerators, stoves, air conditioners, the residents have those now, or televisions, or computer monitors. They don't just put them out on the curb. They have to call up the collection vendor, schedule when the collection is. So basically, it would be just making bulky items consistent with the practice that residents are used to with the white goods and the CRTs.
Yeah, the only problem I see it with is we have a problem now with illegal dumping.
Yep.
So I don't know, when you did your survey with all the other communities, whether it's the illegal dumping has gone up considerably. I mean, I probably could ask Mike Buxton out over there, how much, Mike, stuff do you pick up?
We haven't seen much. Bed frames, most metal is picked up by the scrappers. They go right behind, right in front of those trash trucks.
Yeah.
And as metal is gone, they're grabbing at the junk. You know, people put out a bed for a box spring or a mattress, that's not an issue. We haven't had that much for dumping. You get an occasional roofer dumping shingles somewhere, but not as bad as it's been in the past.
No,
Yeah,
it's
as
a
I
real good
mentioned
question.
tonight, there
It's a
was a
real-
spot at 1486 when, I mean,
That's private property.
it's terrible what they're doing, but
I don't know what's happening there.
yeah, what's doing there, or Coburn Avenue, or with some of the old places where they've always dumped, I mean, it has to create more of a problem.
Well, no, it's a great, and if I can follow up on
Yep.
both your question and Mike's response, when some of these other towns have gone automated near us, like Lowell, the first thing I did is I called up Mike and said, hey, heads up, can you keep an eye out, see if we're getting increased dumping and things? And we also tracked our tonnage reports to see if we saw a spike in our tonnage, like maybe people are going to be dropping them off at folks around here.
Yeah.
And it actually, because I had the same thought and concern there. And the response, Mike, I kept checking with Mike, and basically, we were a little surprised, and it actually hasn't been a problem. And in talking to these other trash and recycling coordinators in these other communities, I've asked that question, and they've pleasantly, it really hasn't risen as much as you might think, so, but it's a good question.
I think the residents of Dracut have done pretty well. When we went to the recycling program, I think it was pretty well taken in. I believe they did pretty well. Now we're gonna, the added cost that I do see though, like if you throw out a box spring and a mattress, there's gonna be a charge for it. I mean, it's one of that stuff that, so we're saving on one end, but yet the taxpayer is still gonna be paying on the other end.
Well, again,
Because we all have stuff during the year that will not fit in that barrel.
in the roughly $100,000 in savings, per year for the town compared to the, because if you think about it, how many times are folks putting out a bulky item
But you just
over
said
the
that.
course of a year?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a saving on your tonnage, yet the taxpayer is still gonna be paying through the course of a year for quite a few different things that they don't pay for now.
And again, one of the benefits of the program is, the particular automated program is that instead of the whole town picking up the cost of somebody who puts out a lot of bulky items, that's currently happening, the person who's putting out the bulky item is the person who would pay for that, as compared to all the other taxpayers having to pay for that person, so.
Yeah,
it's
but
a
I
way
don't
to-
think there's too many in a year's time that wouldn't have some items that aren't gonna fit in that barrel.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point. I have checked with a couple of communities, and it's like, it's a toss-up. Some are very happy with it, and some are not.
Madam
I don't know.
Chair, my own experience, 2 teenagers, big eaters, at least one of them. Wife, myself, we have 2 30-gallon containers, and it's rare that we have both of them filled up. Usually it's 1 barrel. So if we went to 64, we'd have plenty of room. And when we put stuff out, bulky items, it's gone. I don't know who takes it. I know there are people who come by and take old bicycles, things like that, but the stuff just disappears.
We had 2 chairs, again, I don't live in Dracut, but they had 2 chairs we put out. My wife was so happy they were gone in 2 hours the other day.
Yeah.
There were just little rips on the side and things, but
2 weeks ago, I put out an old barbecue grill, and in less than an hour and 15 minutes, it was gone.
And Dennis, it's working just fine.
No, just as an aside too, to pick up on that, a gentleman who usually sits here at this chair, I had a conversation with this afternoon, town council. When he implemented this program in Lowell, he was opposed to it, but he's become a 100% convert. He said it works very well, it's neat, it's clean, the neighborhood is nice, and it doesn't present a problem. Once a year or so, he might have to buy an overflow bag if he's got some extra, which is a service that's available, a lot of the towns do, and we would implement also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
If
know.
people do need an extra barrel, there's a mechanism where they can purchase an extra barrel too and have that second barrel if they need it.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned about the stuff that doesn't fit in the barrel.
Oh, yeah. We have places in town now too. There's a couple of places I've embargoed from pickup. We've got one here on Lakeview Avenue, another one on Mammoth Road that you see that run what they call a yard sale every weekend, and they put the bulk items out.
So I guess my point is, Dennis, if we're gonna be saving money, why do we have to charge the resident another fee to get rid of stuff that they're getting rid of now that doesn't cost them anything?
Well, it does cost now, though, doesn't it?
That's cost.
That's my point.
That's cost. It costs us.
Costs.
Costs us
Yeah,
to
it
get back.
does.
You're just taking it out of them, another way
We're
of taking it out of
paying
their pocket.
$71 a ton to dump the mattress or the box spring, or people bring a contractor in to recarpet the entire house. The contract doesn't take away the carpet, it goes out on the street for the town to pick up. That's the other taxpayer subsidizing that operation.
And
I
again,
look at it both ways.
and again, just in terms of the appearance in the community, instead of having bulky days out there, 30 days or 20 days of the month, because it's out there every day, it's going to be one time a month or on a scheduled basis, just like or twice a month, whatever the schedule we do is. So the appearance, again, is a benefit on that.
I see that as another problem then, if it's only like once a month. If you have a big bulky item, so now you're gonna hang on to it for a month. If you miss it by a day, you're gonna hang on to that item for a month. I mean,
yeah.
I see that as another,
And again,
Part of it that-
We
that
can
I'm not happy.
explore more frequency on that. That's,
that's
think
where us not being the first going through a type of program like this is, you work out those type of kinks and see how it's worked in other communities and find the best fit for Dracut.
I think it would be important to have, some of these other agencies, like you said, like the Resale or Big Brother or some of those folks join us in that presentation, because I think there are things that they will come and get, and of course, it doesn't cost you anything.
I'm not too sure they're not doing that in a lot of cases now.
I think they're pretty.
The Big Brother, they
pretty
call
active,
all the
yeah,
time, but
yeah, they're
I'm
pretty
talking
active.
about something that you're gonna get rid of, I mean, like a box spring and a mattress, or whatever it might be. You're not paying for it now. If we're gonna be doing this program to save money, why are we charging the residents another fee to get rid of it?
But they are paying.
That's my point.
They are paying for it through their taxes right now. It's not like they're getting it for free. It's,
Madam
Right
Chair,
here.
I think Mr. Dracut is correct. There's no savings to the taxpayer other than we're reducing the cost of trash. Where does that savings go in the budget? It goes to someplace else. So it doesn't go back to the taxpayer. It doesn't go back to the resident. And I think that that's a concern I have too, that we're looking at something that's gonna end up costing the resident or taxpayer more money than they're already paying. And I think that's a concern that, that I share. And, but I also think that we need to do things to save. But in this situation we're in now, I don't think we want to add more things to the resident to start paying. That's not what I'm thinking of. So if there was a way to try to circumvent that, it would be wise. And you answered a question I had about the second barrel, if somebody wanted it. What are one of those barrels going to cost? Do you have any clue?
It all depends what size barrel.
What size do they have to be picked up? Do they have to have the 64?
So in general, yeah.
One barrel.
One of the things that's, I think I mentioned this in the report. Many of the communities that first set up these automated programs started with a 64-gallon cart. And what's happening now is a lot of the communities that are setting it up now are actually not going 64. They're going like a 36, 38-gallon. They're going smaller than what we're recommending for the trash, just so you know. So I'm getting grief from the folks.
Picking them up the same way?
Yeah, I'm getting grief from the state that I'm not proposing a smaller size barrel than the 64 here, but that's okay.
But if somebody wants a second barrel, they can get one.
Yeah, so that's what I was just getting to. So what, in these other communities, what oftentimes they do is they offer residents a second barrel if they feel that they generate more trash than the 64 gallons that, like we were proposing, or a 38, like I think it's Bedford. The town of Bedford just went automated. They had big discussions, and they were going with the smaller barrel. So what happens is, what usually has happened, you're going to get a couple hundred households, and we have roughly 10,000 households that are served in the community through the program. You get a couple hundred households that feel that they want that extra barrel. What's happened most of the time is that they'll purchase a second barrel and we have to come up with the cost. And that's why the size of the barrel matters, because how much trash can go in that barrel is what you want to factor the cost by. Because again, we're trying to base it on the disposal cost. That $71 that's going up every $2 every year is at the incinerator. So what ends up happening is they'll pay for that extra barrel, and a lot of times what the town officials hear in like 3 or 4 months after people have made the adjustment to go into the automated program is a lot of those residents call up and say, you know what? I actually didn't need the second barrel. Can I turn it back to the town? So that's actually the experience in most of the communities. Once people realize, and again, it's the first 3-4 months of the program, a couple of months of the program, just like any new program where there's going to be a lot of working with the community as the adjustments get made. But the response in pretty much all these communities after a couple months, the kinks get worked out, and again, a lot of times you see people returning those extra barrels that they thought they needed, that type of thing. One other neat little tweak that we may want to do that some communities are doing is, especially for like seniors, is to maybe offer a smaller size barrel, that they may just not want to use the larger barrel, the 64. They may want to go with a smaller barrel just for their own sake, and that could be done. I think it's the city of Lowell that offers a second barrel to seniors at a lower cost. So then they're going at a bigger barrel. So again, the program would be tweaked, and we'd make adjustments as we continue to do research and see what makes sense for Dracut.
I've been talking to Dennis about this since I first saw the barrels in Lowell and the barrels in Tingsboro. I just think it's a great idea. As to an added cost to the taxpayer, I don't understand that at all. To me, we're saving $100,000. I mean, everybody, and that's $100,000 that can be spent on something else.
I agree with that, and I think that, I know I sound like I'm agreeing with both of you, because I am, but the bottom line is, when you have a fixed income, and you have some seniors here that still live in their homes, and you have some people here that are on a fixed income, they can't afford that extra $10 or $15 to dispose of something 3 times a year. And I think that little bit of money, having had elderly people in my family that struggle through this, just being on Social Security or on a small pension, I know what that $15 or that $20 a month can add to the stress of their, surviving. So I do sympathize with that, and that's a concern I have. I don't think it's a deal breaker at this point, but it's a concern I'd like to see addressed somehow. And I also think that it's a great program to go into, but.
Well, I know, I was going to say, I know in Lowell, it's definitely been, because I work in Lowell with my job a lot, and I know for sure it's made a huge difference in terms of the amount of trash I see just around the neighborhoods when I do my home visits and that kind of thing. It's made a huge difference in terms of just the amount of stuff that's on the streets and that I have to trip over to get to people's houses and
And I
stuff.
also think in Lowell, they just had a thing where they cleaned all this stuff out of the canals, and I don't know how many truckloads they took out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
That happens every year, though. I mean, that's,
Yeah, we've had, the other thing, on the point of the fee, we've had a fee for 6 or 7 years now for the refrigerator, the stove, the dishwasher, the television, all of those items.
Those things are different, Dennis. I'm talking about, you know.
They were free, they were
you get
free.
furniture,
No, they
you-
were free until
You
they,
got box spring and mattress, now you're gonna start charging them, people change that stuff fairly, you know, I just don't think that we should add another cost to them, and that's what we're saying.
You know, in terms of the
we're trying to be,
100,000,
Plus it's
we're
gonna-
trying to be efficient and save money. We're going through, you know, if we
Plus,
get
it's
to-
gonna breed more stuff being dumped illegally. It has to.
Our experience has not demonstrated that.
and in terms of the $100,000 figure that I tend to be, maybe because I served on the Board of Selectmen and know where you stand, and I tend to be pretty fiscally conservative in my estimates and projections, and maybe it's also partly working with the town manager for quite a while. The vendor we currently use has implemented this type of automated program in the town of Dedham. The town of Dedham had been producing roughly 10,000 tons of trash per year. When they went automated, they went down to 6,700 tons. They dropped it, so they had like $200,000 of savings. And again, I wanted to be conservative in estimates with the program here in Dracut by putting the $100,000 figure. Personally, I think that's going to be higher than $100,000 in the savings. But again, I just wanted to point that out, and that's the fact that our company that we currently use has that experience was helpful to get that detail. And again, Dedham's not around here. And then one other little point is the last time we went out for procurement was in 2008 for the trash and collection service. Some of the companies that put in proposals for doing business in the town put in proposal for going automated back in 2008. We discussed it, and when we were reviewing all the proposals, we looked at the numbers. Didn't really make sense back then, mainly because automated wasn't a program that was in place up in this neck of the woods, and we didn't really want to take the risk. The town manager wisely, I believe, didn't want to take the risk and do that at the time. But there were many other companies that were interested, and there are even more now that are in the field and doing this. And again, we have the experience from these other communities to work from, to use and help tweak our program to the best. But all this input has been very helpful tonight, so.
And the other point about the savings doesn't come just from the disposal. It comes from the pickup too, because it's one man on a truck. So the vendor is saving his labor costs, and it is an occupation that is fraught with accidents and injuries. You know, it's a tough occupation. That's his overhead costs, so there's savings in the pickup too, besides just the disposal.
The only problem I have is adding a cost that they're not having now. I'm not talking about the stuff that they pay for now to get rid of. I'm talking about the stuff now that doesn't fit in that barrel that they normally would pick up, that now you're gonna add the cost to. That's what I have the problem with.
No, we can explore continuing the bulky items the way they are now, and offer the overflow bags as an alternative also.
And the overflow bags, I think in one example, were $2 or something like that.
Yeah, there've been a couple of years, it depends on, but usually $1 to $2, something like that. And again, you've experienced in most other communities, if you go to the smaller, instead of the 64, if you went to like a 38-gallon toter, you're going to see people having the need for the overflow bags more, but with the 64, it's usually not that much on occasion. In my own town, just using that experience, we implemented the automated wasn't an option down where I live, but we had a 4-barrel limit when I started on the board, and then we moved to a 2-barrel limit, which is sort of the equivalent of the 64-gallon. And I had some folks pushing back, we're going to generate weight. There was one of the people pushing the program, a resident, they had 9 children in the family. They didn't even put out to the previous point, 2 trash barrels of trash each week, because they recycled their tail off. And the kids and the families are the ones who generate a lot of this interest, and it's amazing, once people really pay attention, how many things can actually get recycled. And it's, as we found out when we've done these other initiatives, and people actually, you know, spend a couple more seconds on it, that they can help their town. Recycling is basically one of the few things every resident in town can do to help the town save money.
Madam Chair?
Sure.
There's one other thing that kind of bothers me. Are we going to be reducing the workforce by doing this?
So, to Dennis's point, what you see is, with the automated, is on the trash side, the trash collection, it's going to go from 2 to 3 people per truck down to the 1.
Would we be putting anybody out of work?
Then you're going to see...
Would we be putting anybody out of work?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to...
Yeah,
I don't want to
okay.
give you a simplistic answer
I'm sorry.
to a very good question, especially during these times.
Yeah.
So in the trash collection, you're going to see that. You're going to see increased recycling trucks because of the change in material. Instead of it getting collected as trash and all these trash trucks, you're going to see more recycling trucks and more employees there. And then lastly, you're going to see more employees, or it's going to be more of a trickle-down impact this way, but by getting more recycling into the plant, the processing plants where our recyclables go, the sorting lines that pick out the different grades of paper and sort the cardboard over here, you're going to see it's going to have a little trickle-down impact on more employees at the recycling facility.
So the contractor doesn't lay these people off? They shift them to other jobs?
Usually shifts them around, and again, the key part, Dennis mentioned the staffing on the trash is a way. But from day one, when I first, it was probably about 6 years ago at one of these statewide regional meetings, when automated was, the state started talking about automated as a way to try to knock down trash, because the state's goal is to try to, big part of the state's goal is to try to reduce how much trash we generate and increase recycling, because actually, it increased, because of our recycling efforts starting in 1990, we added about 12,000 jobs in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts from the increase in recycling. Thanks for helping, and you know, the more we do, the more it's going to help. So,
Thank you.
excellent question, though.
Yes, the only other point I'll make is, like Mr. Miliara said, they have 2 32-gallon that they just really fill, right?
We
Maybe-
frequently use just 1 barrel, 32
Just
gallon.
take, for instance, that's the average.
Yeah.
Why was somebody gonna recycle more if it still fits in that 64-gallon?
Well, because in our household, we put all soda cans, recycle,
That's what I'm saying, you're doing it anyway, George.
paper.
You're doing it anyway,
Yeah.
and I think most people do.
I don't, there are a lot of people who don't recycle.
Yeah, the figure the state uses to sort of dictate, to sort of get a sense of how a community's doing is the amount of trash per household. So in Dracut here, we've got roughly 10,000 households, a little over 11,000 tons of trash we generate each year, so it's like one little over a ton of trash each household is generating. If you look at the numbers for the towns that go to automated, you see it going down to 1 ton or less of trash each year. So again, you do see that significant shift. The people like Mr. Miliaros who are recycling their tails off, and I'm sure you all are, again, the people who are recycling now, everything possible, in a way, are helping to pay extra. Their taxes are helping to pay for the folks who are not recycling, okay, in the town, or who are not recycling everything, because all that extra trash that's being put out by the households that aren't recycling, the taxpayers are picking up the freight at the incinerator. And this is a way to help get everybody sort of on the same level playing field by having that same size trash barrel. And it just sort of makes it a level playing field, so the taxpayers are actually paying the same amount for the service as compared to the people who are actually making the extra effort to recycle and help the town save money, picking up the freight for the folks who aren't doing the recycling. So it just helps that way.
There are communities I'm familiar with that go in a different direction, and they will not pick up trash if there's no recycling bin next to the trash barrel.
Say that again, Dennis?
To do,
No recycling,
no recycling, no trash. In other words, if your trash is out and there's no recycling bin, there are communities that will mandate they won't pick up the trash.
And again,
Well, that's a different truck that's gonna pick up the recycles anyway. You're back to the one who picks it up and throws it back in.
yeah, but like to Dennis's point, that like the city of Haverhill, for instance, has had some recycling enforcement coordinators. They got a grant from the state, 2 people going on the trucks. And if folks don't have recycling out, they're not picking up their trash in Haverhill. They get a letter the first time saying, you gotta do this, if not, then they start getting fined. And I think that the goal here has not been to try to penalize people and that's by doing things like that, or even move to other communities, go to the pay-as-you-throw program. For each bag of trash you put out, residents are paying for that bag of trash. And I don't think we wanted to go to that type of a program, and that's where the automated program is sort of a balance in between there, where again, it levels the field for everybody, but still provides a decent amount. That 64 gallon, I'm still gonna get grief from the folks, my colleagues in the recycling field, but that's okay.
I'd like to see us look at a way of coming up with no added cost. If, that's my point. If we can come up with that, I'd probably be happy with it.
What is the time frame? Do we have to, when do we need to make a decision
We'd like to,
by?
well, our contract runs out in June. We'd like to implement this for July 1st. We'd like to go to bid over the winter and get it in place. So we wanted,
We're going to have those public meetings before we make a decision.
we weren't planning, I don't know, those were public meetings were to discuss the implementation. We're,
Yeah. Okay.
when we do,
So
when I mentioned that we were discussing it at the staff level, and we've had several meetings on it, and staff is recommending that the town pursue this. It was suggested here at the table that the board be involved in the discussions, and that's why we placed it here for involvement. But we would like to get some sense of where we're going with it to begin moving forward.
Madam Chair, maybe, and fellow board members, maybe we should have a public session and ask if the public has any interest in coming in and talking to us about it before. And then we could see what kind of concerns they have before we make the vote. Well, how do you feel about that?
Time-wise, I don't have any
I'm
problems with
prepared to
that, but
support
I
this
don't-
tonight. I mean, I think that's leadership. You want to save $100,000 a year. And the other stuff, you know, I heard Mr. Buxton say you put your mattress out and it gets picked up by somebody. That's my experience. You know, these people are out there, they're out there early in the morning. Sometimes I run into them and, you know, out in a jog, and they're out picking stuff up.
Oh,
You know, they're hustling. And people, you know, there's a lot of people hustling out there. They're making money collecting this stuff. And
Mr.
I don't really think that, you know, that people are gonna be paying extra for it. They're gonna be saving money.
Do you think it's less leadership, Mr. Meliaris, to ask the public what they think? Take an hour?
I've asked people, you know, about this for years now. I've
Well,
been
you know
talking
how-
to
you know how
Dennis.
many-
Sounds like, I mean,
You know how
it
many
does-
people out there say that we weren't told about this, or they don't always watch this? Maybe
No,
we should
Mr.
advertise it.
My thing is, I fully intend to support this. I convinced that the greatest number of people in Dracut would support this if they knew the merits of it.
What I'm
very
wondering is if it
comfortable
wouldn't
with
be
that.
more of a parallel process. In other words, so Dennis, when, do you need to put you need to put the information out to bid over the winter,
We
Right,
should
or is it-
be out to bid in January.
in January?
Yeah, we could do that, and again, there's ways to go. You could either, as we've done in the past, and the state laws provide this flexibility so that the communities can take advantage. You can either work with your current vendor and implement the program, or you can go, that's one way, or you can go the other way and do a completely open procurement and get as much competition in. I think if you've noticed how the cost for this service over the last, I've been working in the town of Dracut as a recycling coordinator for, I think, about 12 years now. In a previous life, I helped the town of Dracut as a regional recycling coordinator. Dracut was one of the 23 towns in the Neswick regional group, and I was pleased back in the mid-'90s to help advise the town on going to the curbside recycling program in that capacity. So it's sort of been neat to serve as a recycling coordinator. I think that'd be fine.
So what I'm wondering is, it sounds like we could do the public piece in terms of informational meetings and that kind of thing as we're doing the process, because we have up until July 1st, Dennis, right? We don't have to do,
No, we need, if we're gonna go with this, it's gotta be in place, the vendor's gotta be picked, he's gotta order the bins,
Right.
deliver,
So it's-
prepare for delivery. We need to, by February, March at the latest, have.
For going automated, I'd say February is probably
February,
the
yeah.
latest on making the decision, because, as Dennis said, you want a lot of preparation. The vendor needs to make sure he has the appropriate trucks. It's a very different truck than the current truck, the old trashy-looking trash pickups you see in trucks going now. And they also, the carts are the main thing, making sure the carts are ordered, ready, and designed the way we'd want them done. Some you can have, and this is the type of tweaking that we would want to, with a green light from you folks, we'd want to be researching in the next coming weeks is, would we perhaps on the cart put all the type of just any information on the cart, but if that's going to add cost to the carts, we wouldn't want to do that. So that's the type of little tweaking to the fine detail tweaking to the program we'd want to do with a little bit more research. So.
Yeah, because you drive around town, you're starting to see more and more wheeled carts. People are buying them and using them. They're using them now. I'll just make one comparison if I could, and that's and I'll use the assessor's report here, where we have an average single-family tax bill of $3,500. Lowell has one of $3,200. Lowell has implemented the program. They charge for the bulky items $5 to $12. They also charge a trash fee of $100 a year on their water and sewer bill, and just as a comparison, and we have none of that. And our single-family tax bill, our revenue stream is almost the same as Lowell's. And it's just, we've got to get more efficient here.
And what I'm thinking is that at this point, because we need to keep moving on, but what I'm thinking is that we could do a little bit of both in terms of having the public meetings, getting the informational session set up. I have seen it work. I would certainly support it. I also think we can make caveats for the folks who can't afford, like you said, Joe, the extra, cost for those kinds of bulky items as well. And I've seen it work in other communities that I've lived, so I know it works well.
I'd still like to have them come back with something that there's no added cost than what there is right now. I mean, I still see it as a problem. I see it as a problem for stuff that's gonna get illegally dumped. I see it's a problem for stuff that's gonna be sitting on people's outside their homes until the month that they can, the end of the month that
We
they
can implement the bulky item the way it is. It'll have to be on an on-call basis, but similar to what we're doing now. Yes, we can do that.
That's my biggest problem with it.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That, to Mr. Zimmeny's point, that the public is entitled to be heard on this, why don't we put this down as an item for the next several weeks and give people an opportunity? We'll have trash talks.
Absolutely.
Come in and, speak their piece,
I
pro,
wouldn't want to
con.
let this string on till into February, but
No.
certainly.
No.
Just to give the
But
public
like you
some
said, have a
input.
couple.
We have time to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like we have time to do a little bit, we certainly can have that process. You can start looking at things. We can certainly think about, it sounds like as long as we think there's no huge cost to the residents, we may be in favor, so.
If there's no added cost, I think it's gonna be very palatable the way it
So
is.
it makes sense to
Yeah.
at least proceed anyway.
One additional way, the automated benefits residents on the cost side is currently you see they have to buy their own trash barrels, right? Lids get lost, they have to go to new lids, trash barrels get broken, smashed up, blown out in the street, whatever, they have to go buy a new trash barrel. They're good for 10 years with this automated trash barrel because of how sturdy it is. It's warranted for 10 years. If it breaks, the homeowner's not paying a dime. They call up, the vendor's gonna come out, get a new barrel, that one's gonna be good for 10 years on. So,
After 10 years,
they're different savings.
After 10 years, they buy they buy the barrel?
No. Again, it's part of the overall cost of the service that's done. And again, because the work, I think I mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, again, the staffing and the trash goes down, but it's the workman's comp type costs that the collection companies are currently paying for their workers. It's one of the most hazardous jobs out there is collecting trash. And it's tough. I know a lot of times they don't do as great a service as we'd like, and stuff sometimes gets left in the streets, and there are issues. But I gotta say, it's a real tough job. It's one of the most hazardous jobs. I think it's in the top 5 in terms of danger in the country. So it's nice to get those. Yeah, your question about the job loss was a good one, but again, that gets worked over to the recycling side, and it's also nice to get some folks out of that dangerous job, and they're just so the company. The owners of these companies love automated because they're not paying these huge workman comp and injury costs and health insurance things for these workers, and that's partly where we as a community see those savings by going automated, because the company's not having to pay those extra costs.
Now, you and I know.
We know a
this
little bit
trouble.
about
We know
workers'
that.
comp.
Herniated disc galore. I mean, it's such hard
Yeah.
physical labor. I mean, these guys don't have to go to a gym to work out.
And it's on a related note, because somebody mentioned, and maybe the town manager, that he's seeing more people buy these bigger, because they're seeing them in the other towns. They're now going to the Home Depot type places and buying their own big wheel carts. I would please do not do that, because the current contract, if we're talking about the workman comp and the guys that are picking up the trash, our contract, like most communities with the STEPA program, has a limit on how much weight can go into those barrels or your bags, and that's so that the poor person picking it up isn't getting themselves knocked out. So there's a current limit of 60 pounds per barrel. You're gonna be able to get a lot more than 60 pounds in this automated toter and get it out there. But it's just another, small thing that's a factor out there.
Well, that is a good factor. The cost of the barrel is a good factor, because you can go through a couple of those in a year, especially the way they throw them around.
If it's, we will leave this topic on the agenda for the November and December meetings, and that
Yes,
sounds good.
please, yeah.
That sounds good.
Is there, I noticed you said something about town mailer. Is there any way to get information to the town? Again, folks that don't normally watch this know to come if they have questions. Is there a way to do that?
Put on the
Can
website.
we do
Yeah,
it?
We'll try and put something on the website.
Okay.
And throw it on cable on the scroll.
You're on the scroll, the scroll.
If you have comments, selectmen will be having comments, accepting comments during their meetings.
Well, no, yeah, just so that they know to come,
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Thank you very
awesome.
much, great
Thanks.
questions, and I
Yeah,
appreciate the good
good
consideration.
presentation, Matt, thank you.
Almost as exciting as the assessors.
It's very exciting.
Not quite as good as the stormwater drain report.
Riveting, riveting.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Matt, thank you for coming. All right, so we have a couple of